With all of the tarot decks that are out there, it is not uncommon to come across one that you just don't vibe with. In this video, I share some of the decks that I'm currently not connecting with, why that might be, and what I'm gonna do with them. Hi, I'm Ruby and I'm here to help you make better purchasing decisions through my deck reviews and tarot chats. This video is a VR to tarot readings from a bitch who created the tag DeckDisconnect. So I'm just gonna come right out and say it. The first deck that I'm disconnecting with is the Everyday Witch Tarot. The reason that I picked this up was because I did a Help Me Say Yes to the Deck on Lisa Papez's channel, and I was over the moon with this deck when I first got it. It is really cute. It is this world of witchy people, sort of medieval people, but then there are also some modern world things mixed into it, which is not something that I mind. Some people didn't really like that mix. I didn't mind it. But when it comes to reading the tarot, there is something about this deck that I am not connecting with, why I am not willing to grab it when I want to do a reading. There are just other decks that I would rather reach for than this one. And I am not really sure why that is. Maybe I am not really into the whole fantasy type of world thing when it comes to a tarot deck, but then I think about that and there are also decks that I have that do have that fantasy vibe that I do really like my Dreaming Way Tarot. I also have to say that I haven't read the entire guidebook all the way through, which I might want to do, or at least for like a good portion of the cards where I want to read what the guidebook has to say, because I do think that the guidebook is pretty good. But when it comes to the cards themselves, and I have found this to be with Llewellyn, like I love their cardstock because it's super easy to shuffle. I love it. But sometimes I feel like for the size of the cards of a Llewellyn tarot deck or tarot card, I think that the artwork is oftentimes too detailed, which makes it hard to really look at and see what is going on in the cards. I don't know if I'm the only one who has that problem. The biggest problem that I had with the deck had that was the Dark Wood Tarot. I thought it was really pretty, but the cards were just way too small for the amount of detail that that art had. And I sometimes feel the same way about this deck, and I have another Llewellyn deck that I have the same issue with. Maybe it's not completely fair because right now I am going through burnout, so having to focus on anything is really hard for me. But this is just a deck that I have not been reaching for. So let's dive into the next Llewellyn deck then, which is the Mermaid Tarot. I've talked about this deck on this channel before, how I'm not really connecting with it anymore. Main reason that I got this deck was because I love Bahati Live here on YouTube, and she used to pretty much only read tarot with the Mermaid Tarot, and I loved her reading. She's basically the reason that I even got into tarot. But I do have a similar issue where I feel like sometimes there's too much going on in the art, or I feel like these cards just don't do the beauty of the art justice, if that makes sense. And I do have to say that even though I'm not really a beachy type of person, even though I live like 1 kilometer away from the beach, it just the ocean terrifies me. I think these cards are so beautifully done, and I have done a couple of really great readings with this. I'm pretty sure I've used it for a couple of client readings in the past as well. But again, if I can choose between this deck or, I don't know, my Sesarabido Tarot, my Ethereal Visions Tarot, my Light Years Tarot, then I will always grab those over this one. And that is the sort of problem that I seem to run into all of the time when it comes to getting rid of some of my decks, or like going through my collection and seeing what needs to go and what it needs to stay. That is what I run into, that there are a couple of decks that I love so much that other decks just don't get the love that I feel that someone else could love and use them more. Now, because I have talked about potentially getting rid of my Mermaid Tarot, I've had multiple people say that before I do, I should absolutely read the guidebook, and I will. I absolutely will read the guidebook before I sell this. I'm pretty sure this is one that I'm gonna have to let go, and I feel like if I have to let go of the Mermaid Tarot, I definitely have to let go of the Everyday Witch Tarot. It's so hard, like, it's so stunning. The art is so pretty in this deck. And again, I feel like the size of the cards just aren't doing it justice. And I have the same issue with the Tarot of the Witch's Garden. I think the artwork is really, really pretty, but I'm afraid that the card size isn't gonna do the beauty of the artwork justice. Next is a deck that at one point I loved and I recommended a lot, and it's the Witchling Academy Tarot. I think this is wonderful in the way of how you can tell a story through a tarot deck. And I have read the entire handbook, it's called here, handbook, where it goes through the story of our main character Charlie, who is the little girl with the pink hair. And I did an entire video on that story, so you have an idea of what the story is before you get the deck. But since then, I have found that tarot decks that work through story don't really work in a reading for me, because if I pull like 3 cards, then I feel like I need to use the context of the story, which doesn't always make sense for my question and my situation or within the reading. And also, it's been like a year since I read the story, so it's not really like fresh in my memory. What I do like is that it's anime, and I love the art style, the illustration style of anime. I do really, really like that, which is one of the reasons that I'm finding it hard to let go of. Also, because Charlie has pink hair, like, it's awesome. I love people who like have pink hair. I used to have green hair at one point. I love it, but I haven't reached for it. And even I think the last time that I did a reading with this, the reading didn't even resonate, and I didn't really even know how to interpret the cards. I was just feeling that much of a disconnect with the cards. So again, even though I think it's a really great deck, and if you are into storytelling through the tarot, then this might be one for you. It's definitely like a younger story. So when I got this, I had this idea that it would be like for my inner teenager readings, because I'm not really about like inner child readings, but I have a lot of inner teenager, like a lot of things that happened in my teenage years that I still have to work through. So that is sort of what I bought this deck for, but it's not really doing that. So maybe I just need to use one of my other decks that I already have for that work. The last deck that I want to talk about in this DeckDisconnect is one that is quite new. And the reason that I'm disconnecting with it is because I find it a little overwhelming. It's the Orion's Animal Tarot. Now, nothing against this deck, and this is definitely one, maybe even the only one out of these 4 that is definitely staying, because it's the newest in my collection. But the reason that I'm disconnecting with it is because there are all of these animals on the card. It's the Orion's Animal Tarot. I am not really familiar with like animal symbolism, but that's the reason that I got it, to learn more about it. And the guidebook is really wonderful with this, because not only do you have the standard, what's it called, like the standard interpretations of the cards. In the beginning of the book, you have an overview of all of the animals that are in the cards. So here you can see that for the Hierophant, I have here, for the Hierophant, we see a Scottish blackface ram, and then it has some information. The Scottish blackface ram is an old breed of sheep with origins dating as far back as 800 AD. They are very hardy and tolerate cold, wind, and rain. Their wool was used by monks in the 12th century to make their clothing, and it continues to be used to make cloth in the modern era. The origins of the breed are uncertain, but we do know that it was developed on the Anglo-Scottish border. So you get a little bit of information about the animal, and sometimes I feel like this one was a little bit like informational and not really in a way where I feel like, oh, it's like the spiritual meaning of the animal, so I now know why this animal was chosen for the Hierophant. But this is also absolutely a guidebook that I have to read all the way through. I want to read all the way through. I don't have to do anything, but I want to. And I do think that the cards are really pretty. Sometimes I feel like the cards are a little dark, so I can't or don't really read with this in the evening time because it's darker and I can't see the images as well. So I do have a ring light like right here on my desk at all times. So that does help. But yeah, the Orion's Animal Tarot I'm just disconnecting with because it is a little overwhelming to get to know all of the animals in all of the cards, and there are some other decks that are just way easier to read with, that I can just pull out of the box, read with instantly, and I don't need to know like the entire backstory. So these were the decks that I am disconnecting with, and most of these I will probably sell. If you liked seeing the decks that I am currently disconnecting with, you might also like to see all of the decks that I decluttered in 2022. Click the video on the screen right now to watch that. Subscribe if you want to see like tarot chats, deck reviews, all that fun stuff. But for now, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you next time. Bye!